Hi, I'm Tom Ziglar, CEO of the Zig Ziglar Corporation. Welcome to the Ziglar Coaching Academy. We are digging into Zig Ziglar's legendary program, Strategies for Success, the Blueprint for Achievement. And today's lesson is on building winning relationships. All of life and all of business is about relationships. And unfortunately, almost none of us went to school and learned how to build a winning relationship. Well, I've got good news for you. You're going to learn these principles here. And if you're a coach or you're coaching yourself, you're going to learn some things that you can apply in your coaching practice and to grow your own relationship ability. So let's watch this video.
I love the story of the fellow that walked in the bookstore, walked up to the lady manager and said, "Ma'am, can you tell me where I can find the book, Man, the Superior Sex?" She said, "Oh yes, it's upstairs in the science fiction department." In building winning relationships, a wonderful place to start is the realization that there are no superior sexes, there are no superior races. And once we understand that, then we have an opportunity to build good relationships with all people everywhere, especially if they're on the same page as far as their ethics are concerned. Well, how important are relationships? Dr. Dean Ornish, in his book and tapes, points out that he studied for 25 years. And he says your relationships actually are enormously important. He says love and intimacy are at the root of what makes us sick and what makes us well. What causes sadness and what brings happiness. What makes us suffer from what leads to healing. People who feel lonely and isolated have a 300 to 500% better risk of premature death from physical illness. He says your relationships are more important to your health than your exercise program and your diet, also than your genes. So relationships are extremely important. Dr. Smiley Blanton, a psychiatrist, says that 80% of all of the counseling he does is the direct result of parents not teaching their children manners. Now, my favorite theologian is Dennis the Menace. Now Dennis has got that together on ball. Now, Dennis is in his little magician suit and he's saying to his mother, he said, "Well, I can't do any more magic tricks because I only know 2 magic words, please and thank you." You see, the parent that doesn't teach the child to say thank you is eliminating the building block of gratitude. And you can count on it if the parent hasn't taught the child to say thank you when somebody says something nice about them or to them or does something nice for them. Without that gratitude building block, you will have an ungrateful child and you will never see a happy, ungrateful person. If you read Fortune magazine, you might have read about Li Ka-shing, one of the 10 wealthiest people in the world. He's got lots of money. He's earned his money by financing small businesses who had good products, good management, but were undercapitalized. He's raised his sons in the business. They are now running his business. And he taught them that if 10% ownership of a new business is the going rate, but you could get 11% or even 12%, you always take either 9 or 10%. Because he said 9% of a thriving business is more than 12% of a struggling business. But he said even more importantly, when the business community sees that you really do want them to win, you can have everything in life you want, then they're going to bring all of the good deals to you.
Wow, that was a powerful start to this video. Here is the coaching principle that I want you to take away. Respect is the starting line. There are no superior sexes or races. We're all created equally before God, and we need to treat people that way. So here's a coaching question for you. Where might an unconscious superiority, however subtle, be limiting how you relate or learn from others. I'm going to put a Zig story in here. When we would go out to eat, Dad had this ability to treat everyone with the most amazing kindness, especially those who were in the supporting role, either a waitress or a waiter or somebody who was hosting. He made them feel special. And you know what happened because of that? People noticed. And even to this day, Dad passed away 13 years ago. Even to this day, people come to me and they say, you know, what I loved about your dad the most? It was how he treated everybody around him, regardless of where they came from. That was a gift. And so when you do that same thing, it changes the impact you have. And if you're coaching somebody, you're coaching yourself, they will notice how you have conversations with other people. And my question is, will the way you have that conversation, will it validate everything you've been telling them? Or will it make them think that you're saying different things to different people? All right, let's get into Dean Ornish. What are 25-year findings on relationships and health. So let's talk about the principle of that story. So here's the coaching principle. Strong relationships are a health habit. Nurture them like sleep, food, and movement. We know that the stronger our relationships are, the more effective, the healthier, the happier we are. And today we live in a time of isolation. So what can you do to create connection and relationships? So here's the coaching question. What single relationship, if strengthened this month, would most improve your well-being? Ask your coaching client this. Who is the number one person in their life that they need to upgrade that relationship with? And how are they going to do that? And then there's the story of Dennis the Menace and manners and gratitude. Here's the coaching principle. Gratitude is the gateway habit for joy and connection. Here's the question I want you to follow on with. Who will you intentionally thank today, and how will you make it specific? In fact, you might want to go even the extra mile with that expression of gratitude. Write a card, send a text, and specifically point out what behavior they did that you're grateful for. And then there's Li Ka-shing and this whole philosophy, this whole principle of let the other side win. Remember, he didn't want the best deal for himself. He wanted to make a deal where both sides would win, and then they would bring the opportunities to him. So here's the coaching principle. Help others win first. Opportunity flows to trusted partners. When somebody knows that your motive is to help them win, to be more successful, they bring you the good deals, right? Because why would they share their most trusted things with people they don't like or don't trust? No. If you are helping them win and you want them to come out ahead, then they're going to bring these ideas to you. So here's the question for you to put in your life. Where can you choose fair plus, right? Not maximum. What's fair plus a little bit extra that you can give to them? Fair plus terms to build long-run trust. All right, let's dig back into the video.
I love the little parable about fire and water and trust. They were in a village walking through, and they were headed for the deep woods on the other end of town. And one of the locals said to them, "Where are you going?" And they said, "Well, we're going to explore the forest." And the local said, "Well, this is a pretty thick area. In case you get lost, how can we find you?" And fire said, "Well, that'll be easy, because you just look for the smoke, and where there is smoke, you'll find the fire." Water said, "Well, it'll be easy to find me, because, you just walk in, and where you see green grass growing, you can rest assured that's where I am." Trust said, "You better keep your eyes on me, because once trust is lost, it is extraordinarily difficult to get it back." Let me play a little game with you just for a moment and see if I can paint you into this scene. It's Friday afternoon. It's about 5:30. The husband has been gone all week long. He comes to the front porch of the home, heavily laden with luggage and a bulging briefcase. Doesn't want to put everything down to ring the doorbell, so he kicks the door. Now, he doesn't just kick the door, he tries to kick that sucker down. Bang, 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 bang. Well, his wife comes running to the door, it opens it, somewhat startled to see him. He doesn't move, he just says to her, now the reason I'm late is I've been to a meeting. And I'm really glad I went to that meeting because I learned some things that just bother me a whole lot. I've learned that there are an awful lot of rights around this house that I have not been getting. As a matter of fact, I have made a list of them. And the first thing me and you're going to do, woman, is we're going to sit down and talk, and we're going to go over this list, because I'm telling you right now, we're going to make some changes around here. Well, I can well imagine her responding, well, Buster, I didn't go to a meeting. I didn't need to. And I don't have a list. I didn't need to do that either. I got them burned indelibly into my subconscious mind. They are permanently engraved right here. You do come on in. We are going to talk. And I agree with you. There are going to be some changes made around here, and you're not going to like most of them. Now, don't you know they had a wonderful, loving, idyllic, romantic, sensational weekend? And can't you, in your own imagination, just know that on Monday morning they couldn't wait to get out there and go change the world, make it a better place to live. I mean, they are so excited about that wonderful, loving, romantic weekend. In another part of town, Friday afternoon, 5:30, another husband walks on the front porch. He's laden with merchandise, or luggage rather, and a bulging briefcase. Doesn't want to sit it down. He gently taps the door. His wife comes to the door and he says, sweetheart, the reason I'm late is I've been to a meeting. And I'm so glad I went because I learned some things that bother me. I learned that in all probability, as a husband, I've not been meeting the needs which you have as a wife. I want us to sit down and I just want us to talk. I want you to tell me what I can do to become the kind of husband you deserve to have and you thought you were getting when we married. I can imagine her responding, well, actually I've been very happy as your wife. From time to time, I have wondered if I've been meeting all of your needs. Let's do talk.
Wow. Fire, water, and trust. That is an ancient wisdom story. And here is the coaching principle for you. Trust is fragile. Protect it proactively. It's the number one thing that we can all build and create and protect that allows us to succeed in all areas of life. And trust is the byproduct of integrity. So they go hand in hand. So here's the coaching question. What action could you take this week to increase someone's trust in you by just 1%? Seth Godin calls this the scalability of trust. His goal is to make every conversation, every email, every text, every phone call, every presentation something that builds trust in the ears and eyes of the person that he's speaking to. Now let's talk about the rights list versus the serving conversation and the doorway. So here's the coaching principle. Self-focus escalates conflict. Serving curiosity restores connection. So when we have a little bit of a disconnect, the more curious we are, the more we can build connection. The more personal and self-focused and what it means to me we get, the more that disconnection grows wider and wider. So here's the question that you can ask your client if you're coaching them or yourself. If you open tonight's door, which version of you would walk in? What would you ask first? All right, think about those questions and start to imagine applying them to your life. and what a difference it'll make not only in your life, but in those you're walking with in life. Let's watch this next video segment.
The first thing we need to do is eliminate the blame game. Accept responsibility. Now, that's not natural. It goes back to the Garden of Eden. Some of you remember the story. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, God put them right there and gave them everything. He said, you can have it all, it's yours. Now, there is a tree right in the middle of the garden that's got some fruit on it. Leave it alone. Well, you know the story. Adam and Eve, with everything else, decided they want to eat the fruit. And they did. That evening, God came walking in the garden and he said, Adam, where are you? Now, God knew where Adam was, but he wanted Adam to speak up. He said, over here, Lord. Lord said, Adam, and this is a direct quote from King James, Adam, did you eat that fruit? Well, you know, God already knew the answer, and then Adam gave the manly answer when he said, Lord, let me tell you about that woman. That's where he got started, right there. Lord said, Eve, did you eat that fruit? And, Eve kept the ball rolling. She said, well, Lord, let me tell you about that snake. And, of course, the snake didn't have a leg to stand on. I love the story of the little guy that was confronted by the three bullies, any one of whom could have obliterated him and looked like they were going to do it. So the little guy, pretty smart little fella, he picked up a little stick and drew a line on the ground and backed up a few feet, and he looked at the biggest of the big bullies. He said, now, you just step over that line. The big bully stepped over the line. The little guy just smiled and said, now, we're both on the same side.
All right, that was powerful. You know, I think we've all seen the blame game, and we understand the concept of the Garden of Eden, but these principles resonate today as powerfully as they've ever had. And so here is the principle I want you to think about. Responsibility beats blame. Progress starts when you own your part. We got to own every aspect of a situation, because until we own it, then we're not part of the solution. Once we start to own it, then we can be part of that solution. So here is the coaching question I want you to ponder. In your last conflict, what percent was yours? Okay, now what are you going to do about that percentage? You could be 50-50. It could be 5% yours. It could be 95% yours. But what are you going to do about it? And then there's the three bullies. I love the little guy who invited the bully to step over the line. And that way they could be on the same team. And so what if we started thinking differently about our opponent and we saw them as a partner? So here's the coaching principle. Reframe opponent to partner. Seek the same side and solution. Here's the question for you. Where could a simple reframing of same side dissolve a standoff you're in? One of the things that I like to bring into a conversation when there's two sides to an issue is I say, hey, why don't we discover the truth together? So the mindset here is not to win the argument, it's to discover the truth that we both see so that we can be on the same side. Let's dig in and let's watch the next video. Zig's wisdom it's more timely than ever. And so you're going to love this next section.
I was speaking in Atlanta, Georgia, 3 or 4 years ago. It was a Friday night, huge crowd. And they were videotaping, and you could only see the front part of the audience, and I couldn't see what was going on in the back. And I got to talking about forgiveness. And I made the observation that regardless of what had been done to you or said about you, everything from sexual abuse to beating or abandonment or abusing your wife or your mother or whatever it was, forgiveness is the key. And I made the observation, I said, one of these days you will either say, I wish I had, or I'm glad I did. You can count on it. Later, I was told there was a young woman seated in the audience who got up and walked out. Later, I learned, as a matter of fact, that evening, one of the gentlemen told me the next morning, the young woman came up to me and she said, "I'm the one they were talking about last night." She said, "My stepfather started sexually abusing me when I was 10 years old. And he abused me until I was 16. And I was old enough then to run away from home and look after myself." She said, "I haven't spoken to him in all of this period of time, not even once." And she said, I sat there and I was pondering, should I go call him? He was still with my mother, and I knew that he, in all probability, would be home. So I called, and she said, sure enough, after a moment or two with my mother, I asked to speak to him. He was stunned. And the interesting thing about this lady, she was talking to me, I don't know how you women do it. How can a woman have tears running out of her eyes and laughing and smiling all at the same time? I don't know how you do it, but that's what she was doing. She would talk a minute or so, and then she would grab me and hug me, and she'd talk some more, and then she'd grab me and hug me again. She said, when I told my stepfather what you had said to say, what you did to me was horribly wrong. It did an awful lot of damage to me. I don't know why you did it. I was a child. You were an adult. But you did it, and it hurt terribly. But I just want to tell you two things. First of all, I want you to know that despite all of this, I do love you, and I do forgive you. She said her stepfather broke down and wept profusely. The end of the story, I don't know yet, but I do know what she said. She said, I've never felt the freedom like I have felt when I forgave that person. About 25 years ago, I made a similar talk, and there was a well-known celebrity on the program. I didn't hear from him along these lines for over 25 years, and last year, as a result of several things happening, I got a letter. My office did, and here's what the letter said. When I first heard Zig, my elected career was limited to drug abuse prevention. My message was angry, punitive, and unforgiving because I had lost a daughter to LSD. Zig's hopeful, loving, and forgiving words quickly persuaded me to change and follow his positive attitude about life's problems. Thanks, Zig. It's been a great 25 years. Art Lincoln.
Ooh, what a powerful story of forgiveness. And I think all of us have somebody in our life that we need to forgive. And it could be for something little, it could be for something big. But here is a coaching principle that I want you to really think about. Forgiveness frees the forgiver and unlocks forward motion. We are stuck many times until we can forgive. It takes up all of our headspace. It creates a lack of creativity in us because we're focused on the same thing over and over again. Forgiveness unlocks that. So here's the question for you, the coaching question you can ask a client who's struggling with this, or maybe a family member who's also going through this challenge, or maybe yourself. What would change for you if you released a long-held grievance? And what safe support would you need to do it well? Please note, forgiveness is personal. If the harm involved abuse or ongoing risk, consider getting a qualified professional to help prioritize the safety that you have so that you can really address this appropriately. And then there's Art Linkletter's lesson. And what a powerful thing. So here's the coaching principle. Your tone becomes your trajectory. Hopeful language shapes decades. So when we forgive, and it gives us that new release on life, right? We see things differently because we've let go of something. It has a legacy, generational, decades-long impact. So here is the question. What message will you stop spreading, and what will you start because of the future it creates? Let's watch the next segment.
It's important because if we can form a team, husband-wife team, if you're married, that you do so much more together. Let me tell you, I can say without any fear of error, I would not be speaking to you this evening, or seldom if ever any other group, were it not for the love, the encouragement, and support of this beautiful woman. You see, the first 27 years we were married, I could not give her even financial stability, much less financial security. We've had our lights turned off. I've had my telephone disconnected. I had to turn the car back in because I could not pay for it. Our first baby was born, the hospital bill was $64. I didn't have $64. I had to get out and make 2 sales in order to get my own baby out of the hospital. In one 5-year stretch, I was in 17 different deals, and that's really all they were, is just deals. And yet during all of those years, I don't ever remember her saying even one time, you know, honey, it would be so much easier if we had a little more money, or if our income was a little more stable. She never said those things. She always said, you can do it. Tomorrow's going to be better. Then the 2 things that rang my bell then and keep the bell ringing to this day: I love you and I believe in you.
Wow, that was a powerful, powerful segment. The redhead, that's what Dad called Mom, the redhead. And her support for my father was unbelievable. And so let's look at the principle here of what that story really means. So here's the coaching principle. Belief spoken consistently grows resilience and results. I mean, Dad, he would, you know, it's in his books, it's in his autobiography, it's in all of his recordings where he had more time to share that, you know, he was broke in 10, 12 times during their marriage where he was off and doing great, and then things changed and he had to start over. Mom's belief never wavered. And because of that, he was able to go and persevere and learn and grow to that next level. So belief spoken consistently grows resilience and results. And that's when we need to hear it the most, when we're going through a hard time. So here is the coaching question. Who in your life needs to hear, I believe in you, from you this week? And what evidence will you name? And so if there's somebody you know who's going through a hard time and they need to hear that, you need to go to them and say, I believe in you, and here's why. And give them a list of victories they've had, maybe the difference they made in your life, things that they've done well in the past, because life is seasonal. Things go up and down. But our ability to persevere often is enhanced by the people around us and the belief they show in us. All right, that's the last section here. We're closing out Building Winning Relationships Part 1 on the Ziglar Coaching Academy. Stay tuned for the video of Part 2 of Building Winning Relationships. And as you reflect on this, make comments in the comment section below. Maybe ask a question. What did you really like about it? And invite friends to this. And if you haven't already subscribed, we love it when you subscribe. There's more here. Check out all the other lessons here. We have a ton of lessons. Some are long, some are short, but you'll grow from it. And make sure to watch this whole series, and we'll see you next time right here on the Ziglar Coaching Academy.